I want to introduce Dr. Gabriele Filippelli, who is the professor and chair of the Earth Sciences Department here at IUPUI campus. Dr. Filippelli is an expert on climate change science and environmental geochemistry.
Well, thank you very much. And you've now heard the interesting stories. Now you're going to hear some boring science. But I did want to have the opportunity to put some of the science that drives this recent report into context for Indiana. So much of this is about context for Indiana and my own personal context, and I think all of yours. And what this graph shows is the increase in carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere since we first measured it in 1958. And as a frame of reference, my first breath in 1964, I breathed in an atmosphere that had 320 parts per million carbon dioxide. My daughter's first breath, on the other hand, she's born in 2002, had 380 parts per million carbon dioxide. And if you're having a child now, it's now 390 as of May. First time we've ever hit that limit. Carbon dioxide is not poisonous. It's not a poisonous gas to us until it's at tremendous levels. However, geologists have known for a very long time that it is a greenhouse gas. It traps incoming solar radiation from the sun and doesn't allow as much of it to leave the planet. This is a very good thing because we're too far from the sun to be habitable if we didn't have a natural greenhouse effect, which we have. This becomes a problematic thing when the concentration of greenhouse gases increases this quickly over this short of time. Our greenhouse gas concentrations are increasing because of emissions. I have no problem telling you straight out that this is a human-caused emission problem because we can track this carbon very easily. What does that mean for us Hoosiers? I like to put it in local context. I've only lived here for 15 years, but I feel like a Hoosier already. I happen to love Indiana. The projections that we feel we're most confident about will come in these graphs in a couple different scenarios. The low emission one, where we reduce carbon emissions by retooling to green products, green energy producing products, to a high emission scenario where we don't do much of anything. It doesn't show up super well, but what you can see is that the average summer temperatures in Indiana are significantly higher by the time my great-granddaughter will be born, as I've already shown you. But what's probably most startling is the chart up there in the upper right, Indianapolis. The number of degrees above 90 days above 90 degrees increases from what used to be the average, which was 16 days in the summer, to in 100 years to as much as 80 days over 90, and in fact 28 days over 100 degrees. This number is particularly alarming for cities. We're not able to cope with that because if it doesn't cool down in the evening, two things happen. One is heat mortality increases. People die from heat stress. This happened in a heat wave in Chicago. It happened in Europe very famously a couple years ago. But also morbidity increases. The number of asthma attacks increases substantially in hot weather, as well as ozone layers, the ozone concentration. It also means significant changes in weather patterns which drive our irrigation and our flood control. The chart on the right shows how much spring runoff or very heavy precipitation has already changed from a baseline of 1950 to now. In the Midwest, the percent of that, what we call heavy precipitation, flooding rainfall events, has already increased 30%. The projections are it's going to increase another 40% in the next 30 years. How do we handle that much water? Here's a farm field covered over with young corn growing in the back. This farm field was destroyed, obviously, for that given year. So how do we handle growing crops in the summer when we have unpredictable spring flood events, plus we have very high temperatures? Additionally, this becomes an urban issue. Indianapolis has an antiquated sewer system, as you know. Heavy spring rains cause the overflow of those systems and the transport of raw sewage directly into our stream waters. And hence the reference from the human health perspective, this can cause very serious issues. We can handle this new world we'll be facing by taking two approaches, and I think we take them together. One is what we call mitigation. be aggressive at developing wind resources, developing solar resources, so that we can reduce carbon emissions. Finally, we have to be realistic. We are going to adapt. Climate is changing. We will need to adapt. And so we're going to adapt how we identify and use water resources, how we conduct agricultural practices, and how we conduct city and municipality planning. We live on our planet, so we can learn to adapt to our planet's changing situations. However, I think we need to be very aggressive at reducing the impact so that my great-granddaughter is not living in summer, not living through Indianapolis summer having 28 days over 100 degrees.
Moving right along to our final panelist, I'd like to introduce Reverend Mike Mather, who is the senior pastor at Broadway United Methodist Church here in Indianapolis. Reverend Mike Mather has been serving at the church here in Indianapolis for 11.5 years and is involved and engaged in the community in economic and human development at the grassroots level.
I guess I wouldn't be a clergy person here if I didn't start out by quoting a little scripture. But I want to quote just 6 words, 3 words of sacred scripture and 3 words of secular scripture. So the 3 words of sacred scripture I would take is from the first 3 words of the book of Genesis in English, in the beginning. And we have this wonderful world that is a gift of God that's in our hands. And then I want to talk to you about 3 words from founding document of this country. And those 3 words are, we the people. So we the people can do something about this gift of God that is in our hands. So I just want to tell you a couple of very brief stories about places where I see things going on. I don't know whether it's going to be enough. I don't know whether it's going to work. But what I do know is that if we can find ways to build up and sustain what people are actually willing to do, then there's a great possibility there, because we the people have some power to do something. Democracy, citizenship, make a difference. There are all these people around our neighborhood who are gardeners, who are growing gardens in their backyards, in their front yards, in their porches, in their living rooms. All these people doing that. And there's a guy named Musa, who I know a person or two here knows Musa. And Musa's been growing things for a while, and he likes to spend time with young people in the community. And he's decided now to start gathering together some of his friends and trying to do a market. Well, our feeling is if we can support not only Musa, but Miss Rose and Randy and Mr. Saunders and all the people in our community who are gardening, not only will their gardens continue to grow, but they'll continue to multiply that. Other people will see that and want to be a part of that, want to do the same thing. Not community gardens, people growing gardens in their communities, in their backyards. Good things, building on good work. I want to also say a shout out to some people who are here today who I didn't know were going to be here today, and I swear that you are already part of my talk. So, and I may pronounce this wrong, but the Chi Echo Center, K-I Echo Center, is that right? How many people are here from there? See, there's some people here. And M. Hotep back in the back, he's the one who's kind of in charge of that. You should know him. This is a great thing that they're doing over around Capitol and 28th, right? The old 7-Eleven over there. And they're gathering people together and they're working on things from a green perspective. This is happening all over our community. But if you only talk to institutions, if you only spend times in the academy or in church buildings or in places like that, you won't know, and you won't know what's really going on and how to support it and build it. Because there is something that has great power in this country, and that is we, the people. But if you depend on institutions to come and fix you, you're still going to be